So, Iron Fist, guys. Yeah. So, I saw all the 13 episodes and what do I think about them? First, I have to compare it with Luke Cage. I didn't like Luke Cage that much, per se. It was too slow for me, kinda boring at times. Overall, yes, I did like it, but compared to Daredevil and Jessica Jones, I really liked it a lot less. And now Iron Fist, I liked it a bit more than Luke Cage, but at the same time it had even more problems than Luke Cage had. And if you're going to ask me what problems did Luke Cage had, just go and see my review of that if you like. I'm not going to talk about Luke Cage this time. I can only talk about the Iron Fist now. I'm not going to spoil major plot points. I'm just going to talk about particular scenes and fight scenes and how things were executed. So I'm not going to talk about any major in terms of spoilers. So what did I like about the show? Overall, I like the story, but actually, when I think about it, I like the most the story of the Mitchums, that family, than the actual story of Danny Rand and what happened to him. I mean, the story of the Mitchums, as the twists and turns and everything, was kind of more interesting. Although the rest of the story and the twist and all of that, I didn't expect a lot of those, so that was good. So I like the twists, definitely. I like the actors overall. But guys, it's kind of hard to talk about the show without starting with the negatives. I'm trying to find more positives and why I liked it more than Luke Cage. I think I liked the pacing more. It wasn't that slow, the dialogues weren't that long, and the scenes switched faster. They didn't dwell on a particular scene that much. But other than that, it was a typical Netflix superhero show from start to finish. But the quality of the writing and the dialogue and even the acting wasn't that good compared with the previous shows. I did like the main villain, which I'm not going to spoil here. He was menacing, he was creepy, he was evil, he was unpredictable and predictable, but mostly when you get to know him, you don't know what he's really capable of. And I don't want to spoil what I'm talking about, just in case that you haven't finished the show yet. But I'm going to talk about the character of Danny Rand because he's the main guy, of course. So for a guy that is an Iron Fist, he is extremely terrible. I'm kind of fed up. You just have to know where I'm coming from, guys. I'm kind of fed up these days from all the shows and how they present our favorite superhero characters, because instead of our favorite superheroes to be presented as stronger, smarter and wiser than the average person, lately in the modern TV shows like The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl even, and yes, I know those are DC TV shows, but it's all the same even at Marvel side. Those heroes are presented with too much flaws, and they're either very stupid, they're making extremely stupid decisions, they're not perfect at all in terms of how they perfected their abilities, and I know that they cannot be perfect from start to finish, but this has become like a complete pattern now, where pretty much we see our heroes screwing up a lot more than we see them succeeding, and even though if they succeed at something, they end up screwing up a lot more because of that decision, because of that win and how they did win in a particular situation. So we have something here that is pretty much like that with Danny Rand, and the fact that he is just terrible. He's like a whiny baby, and he actually was called a child several times in the show. He can't handle his emotions, he can't handle his anger. He's so acting like a baby. He's throwing a tantrum every time that something happens. He's just ridiculous. I wouldn't want to place my life, let's say, in his hands, because he will end up screwing up something terribly. He can't make the right decisions. He's just extremely immature. He can't use his abilities correctly. He's losing them very easily. He has very high self-esteem of himself, but at the same time, he is extremely childish. It's a very interesting contradiction because he was 15 years in that monastery, in that amazing new dimension, you can call it, and he is supposed to be learning, and he is supposed to be already taught wisdom, how to control his emotions, how to channel his abilities. But no, his training is not finished. He left before his training was finished. Those are not really that much of a spoiler, so yeah. Also, he looks very skinny, and that's another thing, but when I see a superhero and I know how he looks like in the comic books, they have to look the part. And he doesn't look how he looks in the comic books. He is a lot more muscular, his body is a lot more developed. Here he's just skinny, and from the fact that he is skinny, we can see some muscle here and there because he doesn't have a lot of fat, so to speak. I mean, to see a superhero in this shape that he's barely there physically, it's not good. I mean, that is important, and I see that Marvel and DC are trying to bring that physicality and present it on screen as best as possible with their heroes, but on the TV side, we barely see that. Even Luke Cage, guys, he's a lot muscular than everybody pretty much that I can think of from the Netflix shows. Yeah, he's the biggest guy, but even he doesn't have a very good physique. He basically developed the upper side of the body, but his stomach and everything below his chest is not very well developed at all. He has too much fat, you can say, in fitness terms, so that's kind of weird. I mean, they're trying to half-ass the physiques of everybody, even Daredevil, although he's most ripped, you can say, but he's still skinny. That's about the physique. The next thing is the martial arts and how Danny Rand performed them. He didn't look convincing at all, and every hit, every punch in the show felt like somebody was giving the other person a slap. The special effects in terms of sound, they're so weak. It doesn't sound like somebody punches somebody, even if they're hitting themselves hard or where it's supposed to be hard. You just hear like you know, it was absolutely ridiculous. You didn't feel anything. I have the same problem with Daredevil actually, but here maybe it was a bit more prominent. I'm not sure, maybe more obvious. Then there was that Davos guy that was just so unpleasant to look at. Hairy as a monkey. I mean, that's the hairiest monk I've ever seen in my life. He was with that British accent. Are you speaking English in that another dimension? I mean, what is happening here? And Danny Rand has one accent, this guy has another accent, and since he was a child, he probably didn't hear anything in English. I mean, thinking logically, but he is still talking perfect English with American accent. 10 years old to be left alone from the outside world with all those people that talk totally different language than you, even forget your own language or most of it. But that's another thing. I mean, I don't really care about that, just saying, but I don't really care about that, just wanted to mention that. And of course, in the comics he uses both his fists, and here he used only one, and of course that's connected to the fact that he doesn't know how to use half of his abilities. He doesn't know what to do. Every time that he fights, he looks ridiculous. I mean, he doesn't look like a badass. He looks like he's doing something that he's not really aware of what exactly it means when he does, you know, these things and so on. I think overall the actors did it better, a preparation for this, especially Iron Fist himself. And also, he was very weak in the show itself, because even regular people sometimes were able to hit him and to best him into half of the fight, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, a person of that high level of martial art skill that is chosen for some unknown reason to be the Iron Fist, he is not supposed to be even touched by no one. Only maybe a fighter of his level, like that guy Davos, supposedly at his level. I know that in the comics he is even stronger in some aspects as a fighter than the Iron Fist, but regular people were able to best at the Iron Fist in half of the fights, let's say. I mean, half of the duration of the fight that they had. It was absolutely ridiculous. And then when he had that tournament, it's just, I'm like, what? First two Russian guys, and he had a problem with them. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what he understood, what he learned for 15 years in that city, that is from another dimension. He should be on a level of martial art that no place on earth, no school of earth of martial arts could match. But no, he's just a huge loser, and he looks like he studied martial arts for like 2 years. He looks like an amateur most of the times, and he fights like one. And here it's a bit of a spoilery, but again, not really, just about what happened in that scene, just something stupid. After he went to the rooms or the place, that there was a very sexy Asian woman there that had some kind of abilities in terms of needles and spider venom. He was immediately captivated by her, to the point that he allowed her to put her tongue in his mouth, and he was so, like, almost ready to get it up, so to speak. Like, he was so turned on by that. That was the stupidest thing, I think, in the whole show that left the worst impression on me. What kind of a fighter that is chosen to be the Iron Fist will go in a tournament, which he knows that he is in a tournament, that he got himself into, he knew what he had to do, he knew how important it was to win, he knew that every fighter or every challenge that he faced is going to be harder than the other. I mean, that was implied. He knew that he didn't know what to expect exactly, but he knew that he has to persevere, and he said, like, I have no doubt in my mind, doubt means a failure, and so on. But in the same time, when he saw that sexy Asian woman, he was like absolutely captivated by her, allowed her to touch him, allowed her to put her tongue in his mouth, allowed her to sit on his junk, basically. I mean, he was ready to pull down his pants, although he's practically a virgin at this point. And of course, she made him pay for it, because that is just something that you can see in an old soap opera, when the guys are so easily seduced by the women. It's just so ridiculous. Like, they just have no brain in that moment. They're just thinking with their second head. That's unfitting for a superhero. That's just so stupid, so unworthy for a warrior of his kind. What the heck did he learn for 15 years? How to be a big pussy or something? So I don't know, I cannot justify that. Oh boy. And he acted so unstable all the time. In the beginning I was really with him, in the beginning of the show, but then he got really crazy and acted inadequate, acted stupid, and I just don't want to see my superheroes being so ridiculous and so weak-minded. And you're wondering why he was chosen in the first place. The Iron Fist himself, he barely can best some regular people sometimes, but we are supposed to believe that he defeated a dragon or something. It's ridiculous.
Quote, I was learning the fight scenes 15 minutes before we actually shot them because the schedule was so tight. So 15 minutes before, the stunt director would talk me through the choreography, and I just jump straight into it.
Keanu Reeves did like 3 months of boot camp where he learned choreography for John Wick. Chloe Moritz did 2 months for Kick-Ass to play Hit Girl.
Yeah.
So length of time, it varies, but for a guy with absolutely no training who is supposed to be the best kung fu
He
guy,
has trained his whole life. That's what he says.
He's the living weapon.
Yeah.
They didn't do him any favors with schedule, and I'll take the guy at face value and say, yeah, they didn't give you the time. They didn't do him any favors.
And I also wonder, like, if they're basically coming up with him 15 minutes before they start shooting, how long before did the choreographers come up with the fights themselves? Were they like, this would be cool, just kind of do that? Or was it that they were bringing down the effort level because he himself is not that talented as a martial artist?
I mean, I feel like they kind of dumbed it down because most of the people that he fights seem very athletic. He, with his shirt off, which is a good portion of the time, just looks very scrawny. Like, it looks like he has done yoga.
Oh.
But not martial arts training.
Like a Groupon amount of yoga.
Yeah. He goes on Sundays every morning, and then he has a froyo. That's about as much training that body looks like he had.
That sounds great. That right there sounds good.
Sasha Raver
You can be the Iron Fist too.
Well, that's incredible. But I think that there's so many other factors here that were pretty disappointing. And here's another thing. There's another quote that he said, quote, I had 3 weeks of very intense martial arts and weight training preparation. But then, unfortunately, once the show started, the filming schedule was just so tight. I was working 14 hours every day, 6 days a week, days into nights, nights into days. And actually, my schedule didn't allow me to continue the training as much as I'd really hoped.
So basically, guys, the story on itself is not bad, but too many corporate stuff. Too many. I mean, this show took more place in those corporate firm of Ren than any other exotic, or not exotic, but any other martial arts type of a location. A lot of things were not explained well, like what exactly was the motivation for him to leave the amazing dimension. He was extremely naive all the time, and he had no clue what to do. He was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to show up, and everybody has to say, oh yeah, he returned, awesome, let's now kiss your ass or something. So that is, guys, I'm really struggling with this show to talk about it. Like I said, I enjoyed it, but it was so ridiculous and it ended on such a huge cliffhanger, and we have only a lot more questions. So many things didn't make sense. So you let me know what you thought about the Iron Fist. Nothing since the first season of Daredevil was that high of a quality, except maybe Jessica Jones. And after Jessica Jones, everything kind of went downhill a bit, at least for me. So let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Follow me on social media, links down below into the description, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. And you can check my T-Chip store, and I'm trying to make more and more designs there, so you can check that. And I also take requests. If you have requests for a t-shirt design, tank top, or whatever, I can do it. So let me know. Until next time with Gary G Reviews.